Hello, Dr. Edith. How are you today?
I'm just fine. I hope you are too.
Thank God. Yeah, we're both here in San Diego, maybe 5 minutes away from each other, but um, it,
Wow.
it's so great to see your face. And you and I met about 5 years ago when you graciously agreed to speak to my youth organization, J-Teen, over in Del Mar by the beach, the sunset. It was beautiful outside and inside, and I want to thank you again so much for doing that. And one word I remember you always telling the teenagers was that they are ambassadors. And
Yes.
and I want to hear more from you about that. Do you especially enjoy speaking to young people? And is there like a
Yes.
special message that you like to share with them especially?
What I like to share with them that when you are a teenager, you're no longer a child, and yet you're not an adult. You're kind of in between, in a limbo, just where we are now with the COVID. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And it's a very difficult time. And many times parents live their lives in a very different world than they are. And, and they don't really know how to just be compassionate listeners.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't never ask people, how are you? Because they lie. If you want people to lie, ask questions. When I say, how are you? Fine. But you know, I was professor of psychology, and one of my students told me that in America, people are hearing, but they're not listening. So I said, let's test it. Tomorrow morning, you go pick up your books. Someone is going to say, hi, how are you? And you're going to say very quietly, my mother died this morning. Oh, great, I'll see you this afternoon.
Hi.
People are hearing, but not listening.
Mm.
So I know that I used to ask my patients, how are you? And then I realized that I have to change. And instead of say, how are you next time? I said, geez, good to see you. I missed you.
Mm.
Make a sentence. Don't ask questions and don't give advice. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? That's what we do, mothers especially. We either ask questions or give advice. And you know, when I came to America, I didn't know anything about compassionate listening. And my little girl, Marianne, came home and said, I was not invited to the birthday party. And she cried and cried. And I said, what do? I use defense mechanism, denial, delusion, minimizing. Oh, that's not a big deal. I just baked a Hungarian chocolate cake, and I'm going to take you to the kitchen, and I'm going to make you some chocolate milkshake. I didn't know how to meet her and keep her feelings company.
Mm.
See, when you are depressed, some people come and they try to cheer you up. It's not a good idea, especially when I complain to you that my finger really is hurting. And you tell me, I just met a man who doesn't have an arm. And now you're going to feel guilty that you shouldn't feel the way you feel.
Mm.
So I like to acknowledge that feeling, grieving, and healing is the journey.
Creating space for the person. As a rabbi, when I look at the Torah reading, there's the letters, but there's also white space on the page. God is speaking to Moses. Moses speaks to the people, but there's empty space between the letters. There has to be a time to give space to the other one and think and listen and reflect on what's being said listen behind the words that are being said.
You know, I love the Torah, and the Torah also tells you the Jews are very, very Right, because there is such a thing as Shiva. They allow you to feel the feelings. And then the Torah says after 1 year, leave the dead alone. It's not carrying that grief, and wearing the black for years. I think the best thing I can give to my late husband is that he didn't leave a cripple here. That I can be like, Mr. Higgins would say, by God, she's got it. She's got it.
I love that.
And dependency breeds depression. I think we have to be very careful not to try to change another person. The only one you can change is you, your attitude, the way you look at things.
So you just talked about finding your inner strength and becoming independently strong. And we just came from the holiday of Purim, which was, Queen Esther is someone who is
wonderful.
She's faced with such an extreme situation. She's in the palace and she's asked to step up and risk her life. And Mordecai says, maybe this is what you were placed to do. And she shows this unbelievable strength and conviction in that moment that she's placed in. Do you see what happened to you in your life in the Holocaust and all the difficulties as something that created your resiliency and strength? Should we be looking at the troubles in our lives and the darkness in our lives as something that is there to make us, will make us stronger and bring out our resilient self?
Mm-hmm. There's one thing I always want to say, and that is that we unfortunately have genocide as we speak, but never in a history of mankind such as scientific and systematic annihilation people existed. I am part of that final solution of Eichmann, and 15 highly educated people got together at the end of the day celebrating that they can put 30,000 Jews in the oven in 1 day. Not comparable, unfortunately. In January 6th, at the Capitol, did you see the shirt? 6 million was not enough?
Aye.
How can anyone not to realize that we're having fascism in no time, when brother after brother is creating such a lie? And I don't think that Ahmadinejad read Plato. I bet you. But I did, because my mother told me, I'm glad you have brains because you have no looks. Very seriously. It's very important to see the messages that you are carrying with you, and you can rewrite your script. I am not angry at my mother, because look at me. I became Dr. Edith Eger, very erudite. I studied the interpretation of dreams by Freud, had my own book club. But it is very important to recognize that Plato said that you have to think of a lie, and it has to be a big one. And then you repeat it until people believe it. Mm-hmm. So our biggest enemy today is ignorance.
Yes.
And that's why you and I come in and tell the children that, guess what? Our ancestors didn't have it as good as we did. And they were locked in, and they were slaves. And it took them 40-some years to go into the desert and going to the promised land. You know more better than I do, but they never gave up.
Yeah.
And I carry that blood. I am so happy to carry my ancestors, that no matter what happens, like in Auschwitz, you never give up.
Wow.
And you see everything as an opportunity for an opportunity. So Auschwitz was not a recovery, but a discovery for me to look at life from inside out.
Mm.
And making up my mind that they could put me in a gas chamber any minute. Any minute, I had no power over that. 4 o'clock in the morning, we didn't know what's going to happen. When I took a shower, we did not know whether water or gas is going to come out. But I had the opportunity now to realize, because when I was studying ballet, my ballet master picked me up and told me, I think he was a son of a rabbi. And he told me that God built me such a way, and he used the word ecstasy, that the ecstasy has to come from inside out. I had no idea what that word meant until I was in Auschwitz. I can turn hate into pity. And I felt sorry for those guards wearing that uniform, being brainwashed, and taking children, putting them into the oven without even gassing them. What can we do? And I consider it my responsibility to do everything in my power that your children, grandchildren, and my great-grandchildren, I have 7 boys, they'll never experience what I did. I'm totally committed. I have such a purpose in my life. I'm the youngest 93-year-old you want to talk to because I keep hope always open that there is a gift in everything.
That is so beautiful on so many levels. And because you've done so, you can it's nice to tell people ideas and quotes, but when we can see you living vibrantly, and when I read your book, The Choice, and I have the gifts, incredible books, to see how you looked at those situations, and if you can do it, maybe we can do it. You know, that ability to see it, if we can see it actualized, it's not just in theory. That's what makes it so powerful. And
yeah, love is not what you feel, it's what you do, that you commit yourself to someone else's welfare. And you are a role model to your children the way you love your wife, their mother. See, you are the role model.
Judaism is a big focus on action. You know, what you do is what you
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I want to ask you, based on what you were saying also, and you know that I work with kids for over 10 years now. And here in San Diego, for example, the level of physical and material privilege is maybe the most probably it's ever been in human history. And yet many teenagers can be sad and depressed. And you could find people that are poor that actually have, and tons of challenges, that have great enthusiasm for life. And I have a quote here from The Choice where you say, I've seen people go from poverty to riches, and I know people who have been in and out of rehab turn their addiction into their purpose. However, I have also seen kids born in extreme wealth turn to suicide. So what to you differentiates the situation of, let's say, a teenager today that could be sad but have material wealth, and you, in the worst physical circumstances possible, being able to find a way to want to go forward and persevere? Is it the frame of mind, developing strength of mind, feeling that you have a purpose? Or
I think it's very important to remember for me that when I was liberated, I became very suicidal because reality hit me. While I was in Auschwitz, I said to people, if I survive today, then tomorrow I'm going to see my boyfriend. My boyfriend and I were going to go to Palestine, and we belonged to the Bethar, and we were going to fight, and we had a purpose. in life. And I think I realized that when I was in the hospital and they put me in a cast and I could hardly breathe. And I realized that when I get up in the morning, I don't say what, I say what for.
Mm.
This is that existential vacuum that people fall into, and they think it is clinical depression. Is not. Grief is not. It's about grieving, and you cannot heal what you don't feel. So we Jews cry a lot, and that's good, because what comes out of your body doesn't make you ill. You know what they say in Hungary? They say to women, don't breathe into your breast. Very wise women, maybe 40 years of education, to let you know that what you think, you create.
Mm. What you think
You don't feel first. See, it's your thinking. You have a cortex, a limbic system. I studied that. I don't want to give you lectures on it, but I know that we call men many times thick-headed because they want to understand everything.
Mm.
And we women go into the heart and allow people to feel the loss. So let me tell you what happened, that my granddaughter asked me to buy her a dance dress because she was invited in her school. And so I bought her a beautiful dress. My father was a tailor and became a couturier and told me that when I grow up, I'll be the best dressed girl in town. I think I bought her a Laura Ashley. And I come home and out of the blue, I'm crying. And I'm thinking, what's the matter with me? What am I crying about? I just bought Lindsay a dress so she can go to her dance. And I came to the realization that I'm not crying because Lindsay went to her dance. I cried because I never went to a dance.
Mm.
And that's what really that grief is. It's unfinished, emotional, something that what we do with anger, we either vent it, suppress it, which I did, and I like to teach you how to dissolve it. Because when I'm angry at you, you don't suffer, I do. I'm very selective who's going to get my anger.
Wow. Yeah.
It's okay to be angry. It's the question is how long you're going to hold on to that anger. Because if I would live in anger and hate today, I would still be a prisoner. So I like me, and I want to give me a gift of letting go. So I don't carry the Nazis with me because I don't know where they are. But I know that if I carry hate, then I am still a prisoner. And I refuse to be called a victim. I was victimized. It's not my identity. It's not who I am. It's what was done to me. And that is very, very important.
Very important. That idea, so many people come to me with awful things they've gone through, and to know that it doesn't define you. You're not dirtied by that. It's there what they did, and
It's not used material. It's nothing other than recognizing that suffering makes you stronger.
Yeah.
See, I love the Zoom now. I don't have to get dressed. I don't care if I have my underwear and just put on a scarf, usually a good one like an Escada or a Gucci. And then I don't have to go to the airport. See, I don't know why people don't know just how to live in the present.
It's such a distracted generation we have.
Guilt is in the past.
Yeah.
what I could have done and should have done. And there is one thing I cannot change is the past or worry. We mothers worry a lot. What if this happens? What if that happens? But the only thing I have control of is the present. I can only touch you now.
That is
So
so
tell your students that when you are with them, not to play with their little doohickeys and thinking what they're going to do after school, because you need them to be with you. Because you give up your rabbinical goodness that you can do a lot for other people. So you can teach them to be the future rabbis. So I think it's important for you to make a deal with them. This is what you do in this class to get an A.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? And after that is death, yours. And then you're going to laugh, right? But then what you can do, make them grade each other. And they're going to be much worse than I ever would have been. I'm a former school teacher, and that's what I did. I negotiated with the students, not coming with, oh, my grandmother was sick and I had to stay home. I don't take any notes, any kind, no excuses.
You know what? You touched on first of all, you touched on an answer to a major question, because you speak a lot about focusing on what now and not on the past. But we as human beings we need to know why sometimes. Why? And even if we can't get the answer, I think you just gave the answer. That knowing that what I went through made me stronger, that I will be able to empathize and connect as you've done with your life since then, that's not the full why. As a rabbi, I can tell you, when people say, explain to me the Holocaust, explain to me the death of my father, I always say Aaron, the brother of Moses, when his two sons died, the Torah says, Vayidom Aharon, and Aaron was silent. He didn't say, yeah, thank you, God, for what you did. He also didn't scream at God. He said, I humbly recognize I have no idea what's going on here. It's beyond my understanding. And he was silent. And I try to be silent for them, create space, and not try to give answers to why these things happen. But one little answer we can get is that it gives us something, it builds us to help other people and relate to their pain.
Beautiful. You remind me that I was on the advisory committee for the Veterans Administration. I was working with the prisoners and how they are not able to really adjust. Even today, 1 of 4 commit suicide who are coming home. It's amazing. So I was on the advisory committee for 6 years, and every morning we went from the Renaissance Hotel in Washington to the VA headquarters, and we would pass the Holocaust Museum. And I say to myself, I'm not going. I've been there, done that. But the 6th year, I came in Sunday, and I thought, I'm going to go to the Holocaust Museum. So I made myself go. And I asked, where do I go to find the GIs who liberated me? I want to see the American flag. And so they told me to go up to the 4th floor. And so I get up on the 4th floor. I see the GIs. I see the American flag. I see the countries, Italy, France. And then on the right side, I saw a big picture, new arrivals in Auschwitz, May 1944. Don't look for me, but I thought that I'm seeing myself. But I didn't see my sister. So that's why I don't know if it was me. But the following morning, I'm at the VA in a beautiful table, with a big sign carved, Dr. Edith Eger. And I wondered, Rabbi, how did that girl yesterday became this woman?
Wow. Wow.
So when I got married, people asked me, did you love your husband? And I thought about it and I said, love. I was very skinny. I was 17. I was very, very hungry. And I was very lonely. So this guy bought me Hungarian salami. So we get married and I become either his mother or his child. And they say, but you divorced him and then you came back. I said, no, I didn't come back. I was a woman to a man. When I married, I was a child to a parent. So I think it's very important to take freedom with responsibility.
Yeah.
And that's what happened when we were liberated. People would go through the gate and then they would come back and sit down.
Yeah.
Now, I follow Dr. Seligman on positive psychology that, and talking about what he coined learned helplessness. And I see that with bad advice.
I was going to ask you about that. So that's perfect.
Yeah,
Please
because
continue.
I was invited also by Larry King. And I remember he asked me, were there any kind people among the guards? He said, I never heard ever any kindness. I said, well, let me tell you, it is 1945. We are going from one city to another because the Americans came from one end, the Russians from the other, and we kept evacuated. And we arrive in a German village, and we are told if we dare to leave the premises, we're going to be shot right away. See, abnormal behavior becomes normal under abnormal conditions. So my sister Magda told me, if I don't get some food, she's gonna die. And I went out and I didn't care about the rules. And I saw some carrots. You know my story because it's in the book. So I stole the carrots and I climbed up the wall and I meet with a gun and I hear the clicking. And guess what, Rabbi? I prayed for him.
Wow.
So he wouldn't shoot me, not for me. And you know what? There was an eye contact. You know, I can kill you with my eyes. I can love you with my eyes. I tell people to really pay attention to the eye contact. So he turned the gun around and pushed me inside. And the following day, he came and wanted to know who dared to break the rules. And I crawl. I tell him, I was afraid that maybe he'll kill us all. And he gave me a little loaf of bread.
Crazy. Yeah.
You know, a loaf of bread meant, you know, like amazing. And he gave me a loaf of bread and said, you must have been hungry to do what you did. Wow. Isn't that amazing?
It's so amazing.
Isn't that amazing? Because the German people were starving themselves. I wish I could meet that man today.
And I want to ask you about that point.
Just one more thing. One more thing.
Sorry, yeah, please.
You know, many people call me the Anne Frank who didn't die. And Anne Frank tells you, first of all, she wanted to be famous, and she is. And she said, I'm going to the window and I look outside and people got killed. And I still believe that people are basically good. Isn't that amazing? And I'm so happy to be there, and Frank, who didn't die, and carry her words that she didn't give up ever, as I never give up. There is hope in hopelessness.
There is hope in hopelessness. I mean, again, if any of us are in a situation that we think is too dark to get out of, I think looking at your story can remind us that there's always light at the end of the tunnel. Something that's eating at me a little bit, and I find to be what you just said about Anne Frank and about you seeing the good that's out there. I remember when I went on March of the Living to the concentration camps when I was 17 or 18 in high school. And at that
Correct.
time, in that time of my life as a growing man, I was very, not aggressive, but I was very, when I saw the Holocaust, for me, it made anger. And you in your book, writing about your sister Magda's experience was very healing. I actually enjoyed seeing her perspective as well, which was more about revenge and the anger she had to like work through, because that's such a natural reaction to seeing what happened. And that's how I felt. And I'm
I
really
don't
like,
think there is no forgiveness without rage.
okay. Okay.
Don't
You have to
cover
say that.
garlic with chocolate. No, don't paprika on my chocolate cake. It doesn't taste good. And I think people want to just use defense mechanism like denial. It wasn't, no, no, no,
So
no,
how do you
no.
still believe in the good after that happened? How have you been able to find the good that human beings can become? Clearly, the Nazis weren't able
I,
to
I,
rob
I
you of that.
believe, I believe is not important. Many people tell me, I believe, I believe. I want to know what kind of life you lead. Show me, show me. So if your child picks up the phone and tells you, Daddy, it's for you, and you tell very quietly to your child, tell him I'm not here. You better be careful, because next week you may give a lecture on honesty, and your child is going to say, my father is a hypocrite. He says one thing and does another. We have to be very careful, because our children don't do what we say. They do what they see. And the best thing for a child is a happy marriage.
Yes.
And I beg parents, never raise your voice. Get rid of words like always, never. I always do that. I never, and a woman tells me, I'm never gonna find a good man. And I say, if I were a man, I would run from you. So write down everything you want for a life mate, and you become that person.
So,
The
Dr. Eger,
probability, there is no guarantee. There is no anything, but there is no guarantee. There is no certainty. There is probability.
I'm
There
fascinated
is.
by what you're saying in psychology and positive psychology and Kabbalah and Jewish mysticism, because the Baal
It
Shem
is
Tov
amazing.
From Hungary too. Hungary is where a lot of the Hasidic movement and miracles
Exactly.
and the belief that the Baal Shem Tov said you are where your thoughts are. Literally, that heaven and hell are not places. The spiritual
Yeah.
worlds are right here. You can tap into.
I love it. I love it. I think the Chabad is my precious children, and I'm part of that loving family, because you take anyone in, anyone. Schizophrenic doesn't matter. You don't put labels on people.
Because the soul
So
is
it's
not a
very,
label.
very important for me to also finish up the story that when I bought Lindsay a dress, that I didn't cry because Lindsay went to a dance. I cried because I never went to a dance. And that's what people need to recognize, that it's not what happened, but what didn't happen. And that's why the Jewish people are able to go through the grieving, the feeling, and the healing. You cannot heal what you don't feel. So don't medicate grief.
So it's okay to feel the grief, it's okay to feel the rage, but at the end of the day, what can you do now to make your life the way you want it to be? What positive thing can you visualize, speak into reality, and start to make the life that you want, and not just hold on to what other people have tried to do to you, or the darkness?
No, you don't compare yourself to anyone, but you can say that I'm satisfied. Today I did more than yesterday. See, my name is not a shrink. My name is a stretch. And I want to stretch your comfort zone, that you risk. That's the best four-letter word. You got to risk. So if I come to you and I ask you that, I really like you, I hope that we can be friends, and that you get to know me, Edie, not Dr. Eger, and you tell me, thank you very much. I always want to be polite to the elderly. To tell you the truth, I'm not interested. So I risked. I didn't get what I wanted. But there is no such thing in my vocabulary, rejection. No one can reject me but me. A rejection is a word, an English word that people make up, okay, when you don't get what you want. So which God said that I should get what I want, when I want it, how I want it. There is no such thing. But I was rejected. No way. I had a girl who was suicidal from the University of Texas. I said, what happened? She said, well, John wanted to have sex with me. And I told him that I want to be, and I am, a virgin. And he told me, if no one wanted you, I don't want you either. And I am sitting there that my mother told me that I have something special, but she didn't tell me what. I didn't know my anatomy. And now here I'm hearing the thesis, the antithesis. Now you should have sex. I know, not just the plain vanilla, but this and this. And I'm thinking both are based on shoulds. You should do that. So get rid of the should. And you say, I have a choice. I could. And never defend yourself, because you're going to be defeated. So when someone asks you why, don't say because. Be a Jew and answer a question with a question. Why? Well, why do you think it is? Yeah. So there are two psychiatrists in the elevator. One of them is totally disheveled, and the other is altogether a three-piece suit. And so the disheveled one asked, you know what? I really would ask you, it's impossible for me to see you so beautifully well put together after you listen all day long to people. And he says, who listens? So
I love that. Dr. Eger, I know your time is precious, so I have one final question, and it really ties into what you've been saying, that you wrote recently about how you were on the Brene Brown podcast and how it was a dream of yours to go on there, how you have big dreams in your life that have become realized. And you've also talked about the power of visualization, the idea of how even in the camps you were able to visualize yourself with your boyfriend or with dancing. And you talked about Viktor Frankl, who I love, and he says the ones that survived weren't the strongest ones. They were the ones who had the best imaginations, and they could visualize a person or a place. Or how can we utilize and value our dreams and visualizing the future? And a lot of times our society says, don't have daydreams about stuff, be realistic. Can you tell us about the importance of dreaming and visualizing good things in our life?
You know, as I told you, I came to the realization that during the day, whatever I was pushed to do, I did. But at night, I had my dream. I was dancing. I was free. I was doing my ballet. And I was remembering more than anything else, my mother making a challah Friday. I mean, it was an art piece, the way she did that challah, that the smell was all over the house. See, Abraham Maslow was right about the hierarchy of needs. When you're hungry, you just think about food. And that's what we did. We would fight over how much paprika you put in the goulash. And my daughter and her precious husband are here now from Austin, Texas. And I'm going to make the chicken paprikash. And he wants to watch me how I make it. He's right here. Come, honey. And he's going to make Hungarian beautiful chicken.
I want to do it. I don't want to.
He wants to do it. And he's going to watch me. We're going to do it together.
Awesome.
And that is so wonderful. But you see, Abraham Maslow talks about the physiological needs, the safety needs, okay, the love needs. And when I was liberated, my aunt from New York sent us packages. And I remember that she said us things that we didn't know what to do with, called Crisco. You know, we never heard of such a word. And I remember that we had tea bags. And I would make like 100 teas out of one bag. So we would have a little taste of and even today, I am careful with the tea bags, and I just throw it out, but maybe making a little bigger cup, and that I never throw out any food. Never throw out any food. I take it home. I eat up your leftovers. It's painful to throw out a piece of bread.
Yeah.
My daughter tells me, it's okay, Mom. Leave food on a plate. It's okay, Mom, just leave. And yet, I can tell you honestly that Auschwitz was an opportunity not to recover, but discover that life is from inside out, not from out. Don't wait for someone to make you happy. You're never going to be happy. Dependency breeds depression a lot of the times.
Dr. Edith, thank you so much. And, you know, I think you're a living miracle that I met a rabbi who survived the Holocaust, and he says, people ask me, where was God? He says, God was with me, because and then he lists about 10 miracles to survive.
Tell him I say that all the time, that guide, that beautiful guide who helped me to change hatred into pity. And that's what I say. Where was God? I say God was with me. And God is with me. God is with me because I pray in Hungarian. That's my mother tongue. And that is in my heart and soul. So when I drive and I come home, I'm thanking God in Hungarian that I came home safely with God guiding me to drive home safely. So my God is if people ask me, where was God? And I say, God didn't kill my people. People did.
People can be worse than animals or higher than angels. And I think you show the contrast, the ability of you to forgive and go past is just, it's the two opposite ends. And
see, forgive is not me forgiving you. I don't have any godly power. I don't know where the Nazis are. but I refuse to carry the past
Mm,
so I can be free. I can have joy and passion and purpose and
yes.
meaning talking to you again. And I hope I can come to the children. And I'm a big toucher, and I love to hug the children and let them know that if I can do it, you can do it.
Thank you, Dr. Edith, for giving always of your time to all of us. And we really need
Ever.
it in our generation.
I love you. I
Thank
love you very much, Rabbi.
Thank you so
God
much.
bless you. Thank you. Shalom.